Hello. Hi everyone. My name is Manav, and if you guys don't know me, I'm a perfect scorer. Have been teaching the SAT for over 5 years at this point. Let's just jump into the video. Since you saw the title, we're going to be talking about what SAT score you even need, right? Because this is an important topic, honestly, because without quantifying your goal, it's going to be difficult to be number one satisfied once you do reach it. Because I truly believe in the fact that you will reach it, and also just to stop, right? Just to know when to stop, and know when you've done enough and when you need to put more gas on the pedal, right? So let's go on with the video and let's dive into this. So let's start with this concept here, right? SAT scores are like keys or club bouncers, right? And what do I mean by that? So hopefully, I think if you're watching this, you haven't been in a club before because you're probably in high school, but you obviously know the concepts. Some guy stands around outside the club and checks who gets in or not, right? So if he doesn't like you, you're definitely not getting in, right? And all it gives you a chance to, the SAT score, is a chance to try. Okay, so think of it like a gatekeeper. If your SAT is too low for the school you're applying to, they will honestly probably ignore you unless you're something special. If you have some other third element or fourth element that's insane about you, maybe like you have a Nobel Peace Prize, but your SAT is 1,000. Like they're definitely gonna take a look at you. But a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that, oh, I got a perfect score, even like myself. Oh, and like the college is gonna be easy. I'm pretty much good for any college I want to go in. That's not true. It only gives you a chance to play. It doesn't guarantee you an admission. And if you look at some of the other contents that other tutors put out, you'll see tons of profiles that you'd be like, okay, this person probably got in every school and every Ivy because they have like a 1550 and their GPA is a 4.0, etc., etc. Nope, they probably got rejected from a lot of them and maybe got into one or two at most, right? Because every Ivy is just so distinct, right? That being said, let's start with the first band of score, right? This is like a 900 to 1050. If you're below this, you are completely cooked, honestly, and you need to really step your game up. But this is the score where you really become somewhat college ready. Over here, though, you do have a lot of limited leverage in terms of like your choices and the ability for you to secure awards, right? There may be very small GPA dependent merit awards that it maybe if you have a really high GPA you can secure, but for the most part you're probably going to be paying full price, right? And here you really unlock colleges like state universities and super less selective private colleges like the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and UTEP, right? Over here, the limitation in your gap of a low score is definitely going to be content. So either you don't know your stuff in math, or you don't know your stuff in English. There really is no other way to put it, right? You're not worried about strategy, to be honest, or anything else, right? So let's dive into the next first big ROI zone, which is this 1050 to 1200. Like at this point, when you reach past, like kind of like in the 11 zone, a lot of the state universities that you're going to be hearing a lot about and are honestly really famous are much more realistic than the previous tier. Okay, you also unlock some access to mid-tier private colleges, although you don't have like a super wide expanse across them, right? You're a solid student. I think that's what I'd say. You're just solid. Nothing crazy, to be honest, but this shows colleges that you're solid, right? You're decent. Like over here, the examples of some schools that fall into this category are like FIU or Texas State. And here again, unfortunately, one more time, the limit here is also content. Okay, so it's going to be, you need to pay more attention in math class. You need to pick up a book actually once in a while. You just don't know math well enough. You don't know reading well enough, right? Maybe your vocab is off too, right? So that brings us to the next tier, which is like really when I start to get comfortable promising results or telling kids, what to expect from me. This is like a 1200 to 1350, where you're considered a competitive applicant who really has something to show, right? You have some weight to throw around on your gloves, right? You have broad access to strong public universities, Rutgers, Penn State, etc. Even in, like, you can see I have here University of Arizona as an example, and you have a really good shot, right? You're probably going to college, right? You have better odds at selective privates, although you're not like just walking in there, right? A lot of the selective ones, though, you have a much better odds of getting in there. And colleges will think of you as academically capable and competitive, right? Again, unfortunately here, though, the limit again is, or actually probably more simply, the limit is just content, right? And to talk more about that, content is a good limit to have, because once you have that, you can just nail it moving forward, right? So yeah, this is the 1200 to 1350 tier. So here is the next tier when you start to get up in the ranks with the big guys. This 1350 to 1450, and you're gonna be among the top students at most schools, right? Let's just be honest. You're competitive at top 50 schools, and you can probably get a large merit scholarship at a lot of schools. Maybe not the top 50s, but lower ones if you go for. You're probably gonna get merit scholarships, and this is when you start to get forgiveness in other areas, right? So, for example, if your GPA isn't stellar, but your GPA, maybe let's say it's around like let's say you have like a 92 average or like a high 80s average. If you have a 1450, colleges might be like, all right, maybe their school's a little different with their GPA. Maybe they had a bad semester, right? Schools in this example or in this tier are like UF that you can look into, right? The limit here changes a little bit. It's not only content, because really at this point, if I like forced you to be in a room with the SAT for, like a full day, full 24 hours, you could probably come out with a 1500. Your limit at this point shifts from content to be execution and strategy, right? So you need to learn the question types more. You need to learn the strategies on how to approach specific question types, right? And you need a strategy to sort of navigate through the sections, make sure you're not giving up, even though you still have time left. You want to make sure you're going over your answers when you can, and you want to be more mindful of how you're executing on the actual exam, right? So this is when strategy actually starts to come in the picture. The next tier is when you become really ready for like sort of the elite schools that sort of everyone's kind of heard of, right? So these will be like Ivy adjacent schools will become an unlock for you, and the top 20 schools, they're going to take a look at you, right? They're going to open up your GPA. They're going to read your resume, and they're going to read your essay a little bit deeper than the other guy who had like an 1100, okay? So these will be highly selective private schools like Northeastern, USC, NYU, like the schools they write songs about and that you'll get mails about in your mailbox. These will be those schools that will be highly selective and private, right? Not Ivy schools, although it's possible, and it will happen, of course, like we said, that gatekeeper analogy, but you'll really be more confident with highly selective private schools, okay? Which brings us to our last tier, which is the diminishing return zone. So there's a reason why I call it the diminishing return zone, even though I grinded until I was in this zone, right? I made an error, and I should have just grinded just enough to be in the last zone, right? Because that's when you have the biggest unlock, right? But when you're in this zone of a 1550 to a 1600, dude, if you come to me and tell me you want to retake the exam, I will obviously take your money and tutor you, but I will have to hold back my laughter, because really all the energy you could have spent weekends with me would have probably been better spent, working on your essays, or honestly just in the sun, thinking about what you want to do with your life. Okay, I want you to stop stressing about anything SAT related, even though your Indian parents might be forcing you to. You at this point have a huge amount of signaling power, and this will be a status marker on your application to universities, right? You will come into full scholarship territory depending on some schools that you apply to. And at this point, like I said, it's better time spent on essays extracurriculars, spending that time with your family before you move away to college, and spending time on leadership things, right? So these are schools like Stanford, MIT, UPenn, all the Ivies, and then UMich, right? Although it's pretty much like an Ivy League at this point. That school's great. So yeah, just to sum it up, 1,000 is average, 1,200 is solid, 13 is strong, 14 is very strong, 15 is elite, and beyond 1550, no one really cares, right? It's the same thing. If you're already in the elite category, so you're good. These are some common myths, right? 1,500 guarantees Ivy League. I wish. If that was true, I would have been wearing a Harvard sweatshirt in this video right now, but unfortunately, they didn't mess with your boy. So yeah, that is not true. The SAT is mainly like a door unlocker. It gives you a pay to play sort of thing, right? Lets you step into the casino. Okay. Another thing I hear all the time and I constantly laugh with is that the SAT doesn't matter anyways. Like so many schools are test optional. First of all, that was like a super COVID era policy. And that is not how things work today. A lot of those schools actually rolled back their policies, although a lot of them are still test optional. A lot of them rolled back their policies and are now making them required, right? And also, to be honest, like if you were a admissions counselor and some kid had a 3.9 GPA and the other kid had a 3.9 GPA, but the other kid had a 1,500 to go along with it, you'd probably rather mess with the other kid, especially if, his essays may be a little nicer. Maybe you start to see his status in a little different light, right? So, that is what it is. And one other thing I wanted to add is that improvement is linear, right? Tutors are great. Tutors can help you walk through questions, but we are not magicians. All that we really are is kind of a catalyst to you getting that experience, okay? What do I mean by this? I mean that if you search up on Google, there is some X number of questions that guarantee you X number of improvement. Maybe it's like every 200 questions gets you 20 points, right? If you just keep doing all the free content you could find on the internet all day, every day, don't you think your score would go up? So that is the brutal truth, is that improvement is linear, but that's still why, there's still reasons why even the greats of the game have coaches, right? Everyone has a coach. Basketball teams have coaches. Muhammad Ali had a coach. Mike Tyson had a coach, right? All these elite runners have coaches. All the elite fighters have coaches. And that's for a reason. It's because they kind of make the process easier and they can give you more feedback. So the feedback loop of you learning is a little shorter, right? That being said, again, I want to reiterate, if anyone promises you a secret method on the SAT and they don't back it up with at least mentioning this fact once, they are lying to you. We are catalysts and we are coaches and we are supporters. We are not magicians, okay? That being said, text me for SAT tutoring. My phone number is on my website. If you do want sort of that coaching model where I can guide you through and your SAT journey and make your life probably 10 times easier. And I have tons of student testimonies on there too. So if you mess with my philosophy around the exam and around life or maybe around college and career in general, feel free to hit me up there. And all right, thank you.